and to see it grow so fast in such short time is absolutely mind-boggling. So congratulations to all of you who are here. I'm very happy to see you. Young Corporate Malaysia as well is proud to present to you the speaker for today, which I shall introduce later. But before that, I shall invite you, our founder, Mr. Wan Muhammad Firdaus, to tell you what Young Corporate Malaysia is all about. Please welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Usually we have small rooms. Today, for Azran, we decided we might as well be safe and get a bigger room. So I think we took the right decision. What we do in Young Corporate Malaysians is that we want to congregate young professionals between the age of 21 to 30. I know some of you above 30. But what we want to do is we feel that it's very important for young professionals to get to know each other. I'm sure all of you know that as much as the know-how is important, the know-who is very important in Malaysia as well. So YCM is one of those platforms which we want to have so that it can help young Malaysians. At the same time, we want all of you to learn from the different CEOs that we host every month. What we try to do is we host male CEOs and we do female CEOs as well, and we alternate them. So please do join our mailing list. Our website is ycm.com. At the same time, we are looking for young professionals who are willing to put in some time to help us organize this kind of events. I know some of you are very busy with their work, but most of our young conveners, they've been doing this since they started work. Now they're all a bit old already. So we need more young people to help out. So if you are interested to be a convener or a committee member, as we call it, you can contact Ain or you can speak to Farhana or anyone that you can see in front here. So hopefully later we can hear inspiring things from Azran, and you'll have at least 45 minutes to grill him with your questions. Thank you.
Hello again, everybody. Actually, I forgot one small household thing. I should actually introduce myself, as I will actually be the MC for the next hour and a half. So a little bit about myself. My name is Kuratul Ain Zainul. I am currently with Bank Negara Malaysia. I was a graduate of London School of Economics in Law, and I was trained as a barrister at Lincoln's Inn. I was subsequently called to the Malaysian Bar as well. So, without further ado, let me introduce to you the speaker. As you all know, he is the CEO of AirAsia X. He's a graduate of Stanford University in Electrical Engineering and Management Science. But I think what is most interesting about this person is not his qualification, but actually his personality. I think he really embodies the whole ethos of AirAsia X. Although he's not actually wearing red today, but I think it will show to his personality. Oh, okay, he's showing somewhere where I don't think I want to mention. But anyways, his interest is snowboarding, running, and ultimate frisbee. Now, your guess is as good as mine as what he means by ultimate frisbee, but let the speaker tell you all about that. Without further ado, please welcome Mr. Azran Osman-Rani.
Everyone. Good evening. Thanks for coming. Wow. Thanks for those of you who gave me a little bit of feedback in terms of what you wanted to talk about. Some of you want me to touch on how do I manage risks. I don't. Or how my career came to be. Random. But I guess there's actually a message in that, and I'll try to weave that in terms of the AirAsia X story. But I think we live today in a different time. Gone are the days where as individuals or as companies that we have these long-term plans. I don't know any of you here who are in a planning department where you're asked to do 1-year budgets, 3-year plans, 5-year plans. Anyone? Well, throw them all out the window. It doesn't make sense. I've gone through 5 iterations of 2011, and it's only March. And it just goes to show the times that we live in. You can't predict. You know, in just a short period of my very brief career in aviation, right? We had the credit crunch, the global financial crisis. Oil went up to $150 and then down to $30. H1N1, volcanic ash, floods, earthquakes, and now, you know, level 5 nuclear radiation. You know, you can't predict these things. So why bother in the first place? And I think if there's one thing I want to share with you, it's about, you know, living in these new times, whether as an individual, as you think about your careers, or as the businesses that you run. It's not about planning or anticipating, because you can't. You can't outguess anyone. It's all about just being nimble, grabbing opportunities as and when they come, and knowing when you make mistakes and change quickly. And that's our little story. So that's my 1-minute speech. If any of you want to go, that's fine. That's 140 characters. Did you get that? But I'll tell you a little bit about AirAsia X and why I came on board. And you know, I obviously had 0 qualification experience beyond just being a regular passenger on airlines. But I thought this was a very unique opportunity, precisely because people said this cannot be done, right? The world's experts, people who've been in aviation for 30 years, 40 years, said you cannot do low cost over long haul distances, right? Number 1, they gave all the reasons why you can. Number 2, most importantly, right? The British tried it. Sir Freddie Lincoln in the 70s tried, failed. The Americans tried it. People Express in the 80s tried, failed. People in Hong Kong tried it. Oasis Hong Kong. Zoom, Canada tried it. So if all these great people from these great countries tried, what makes you think you Malaysians with 0 experience in aviation and that think you can pull this off? And that was the one hook for me that said, let's do it. Let's find a way. And you know what? When we started this, you know, Tony gave me a very interesting PowerPoint presentation. It had 5 charts and just had a picture of London for $9.99. And that was all I had to start with. So no Excel spreadsheets, no strategies, no details. We had to make it up as we went along. But that was the beauty, because for me, that's the big opportunity. Because it's easy to understand, right? Surely, if you can offer flights at a much lower price point, more people will want to fly. That's the easy part, right? And the challenge is how, right? How do you keep doing it and not lose your shirt? But the one thing that I thought was interesting is there must be a different way of doing it. And the one thing that was interesting about aviation is this industry globally, it's amazingly homogeneous. I don't know whether some of the industries that you are in are the same, where it's hard to really distinguish one industry player from the other if you strip out the brand and you strip out the colors, right? They operate the same way. In fact, in aviation, there's this big global cartel. It's called IATA, right? They all try to do the same things, right? We must have the same process. We must have the same codes. And if that's the only way of doing it, then you think, gosh, you know, there must be something. There must be a different way of doing it. Now, it's easy for me to stand here and say, you gotta be bold, you gotta be passionate, you gotta try, you know, new things. But it's not just about being bold and passionate. You've got to have that one good idea, that one good rationale that really makes sense. And I get a lot of people who write in asking to apply for a job, which is great. You know, I love people who are enthusiastic. But then enthusiasm alone can't carry you, right? If, you know, I get all these emails and the guy will keep trying, and the 10th time, you know, you already said, you know, never take no for an answer, so I'm going to keep trying and trying and trying. I said, look, you know, you'll try 100 times, I will still say no, because there's no substance there. Right? There's nothing unique or interesting. So I'm not going to hire someone just because, you know, they're really persistent and they're really passionate. There's got to be a unique, interesting characteristic that you built on. And same thing with the business. Great to be bold, great to be smashing the status quo. But you've got to know what is it that really makes it work, right? And for us, the breakthrough customer insight at AirAsia X is this. The entire industry, this legacy industry, was built around serving what we call the time-sensitive, price-insensitive customer. The very important first-class, business-class people, right? Whereas we found that if you focused and you know, started with a blank sheet of paper saying, actually, what do the rest of the world want? I.e., the price-sensitive, time-insensitive people, there's a big insight. And this big insight is this. This entire global industry, right? Singapore, Malaysia, Thai, Cathay Pacific, Emirates, Qantas, BA, name it. They built the entire industry to serve the premium passengers, such that what's the most important? What's the most expensive thing that an airline purchases? Planes. Very expensive. Would you believe that these most expensive assets are being run at a 50% utilization rate? Can you imagine if you are a power plant or a petrochemicals plant running at 50%? If you're a warehouse, shipping company running at 50%? If you're an IT data warehouse running at 50%? If you're in a services company, right? Some of you might be in a services company and your employees basically use 50% of their time. You're going to succeed in your business? Tough, right? Well, the entire airline industry was running their assets 50% of the time, i.e., on average, and you can Google for those of you who are on your phones, Cathay Pacific annual report, right? Average aircraft utilization, 11 and a half, 12 and a half hours a day. Why? The reason is because they're so focused on the premium customer. These customers, right, for 50, 60 years, they built this entire industry, right? Because 50, 60 years ago, flying international was a glamorous experience. You put on your suit, tie, your best dress, you know, you go to the airport, you know, white linen, fine china, silverware, you know, caviar, champagne. That was flying international before you were all born, before I was born. So they're so focused on these business class passengers, first class passengers, right? Who, for example, want the convenience, right? The departure and arrival times must suit their objectives. That's why you see, you go to KLIA, you go to Changi late at night, you know, after 11, 12, 1 a.m. That's when all the big flights are taking off, right? So that you arrive in London first thing in the morning. But then, the important businessmen or businesswomen, maybe most of you in this room, don't want to wake up at 3 a.m. in London to catch a 7 a.m. flight back to KL. Right? So the plane basically stays in Heathrow parked for several hours before a more convenient time to fly, paying expensive parking charges because airports are usually monopolies, paying expensive parking charges and being idle. Right? You can go to the airports, look at these big planes during the day. No one's working on them. There's no maintenance. It's waiting for the convenient time. That's it. The other thing is, when you have to fly long haul, which is very different from the whole short haul thing. You know, short haul, low cost carriers will tell you we're a point-to-point carrier. We can take you from point A to point B. Well, when you want to physically fly the long haul distance, you need a big fuel tank to traverse that distance. And a big fuel tank means you need to have a lot of seats on your plane. Right? And you cannot get enough people going from point A to point B to fill up those seats 365 days of the year. So they need the connecting feeder, people from different cities hubbing into a single point and then going on the long haul flights. Right? So they developed this very complex hub and spoke model, which evolved into things like code sharing and eventually a global alliance. You've heard of Star Alliance, One World, SkyTeam. Massive computer systems. For those of you who are in IT, imagine 8 mainframes trying to talk to one another, payment settlement systems. It's insane the resources they put in to make this happen.